Catholic Climate Covenant is on Piscataway and Nacotchtank land. And if you'd like to, if you know the land that you're on, you can take a moment and share that in the chat for us to see just the many different places that we're tuning in from, and knowing that this is just a first step toward solidarity with Native communities. From here, you might learn more about the Native inhabitants of the land who live where you are today and what kinds of issues they're organizing around and how you might be able to show up for them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Desiree. I didn't introduce myself, but I'll say my name's Anna Robertson, and I'm Director of Youth and Young Adult Mobilization at Catholic Climate Covenant. And I'm really honored and delighted to introduce my colleague, intern for Youth and Young Adult Mobilization, Desiree Finlay, who has been organizing this Ecospirituality Nights event to get us started. Desiree.
Thank you, Anna. I feel like you already introduced me well. Thank you for starting us out this evening. I kind of came up with this series through conversations with Anna, through my own learning, because I never even read Laudato Si. I didn't know what was up with environmental justice and climate justice, but I was excited about learning, and this was kind of like a chance for me to learn and get to know others who are learning and growing and acting, and so here we are. So thanks for being here. And now I will let Terry take over with prayer, and just to mention that she's one member of our young adult cohort who has been working behind the scenes really hard to make all of this happen. And you'll see some of them throughout the night leading different things. So Terry, thank you for leading us in prayer tonight.
Thanks, Desiree. I just want to begin by taking a moment to ground ourselves in the presence of God within us and around us. And I invite you to feel your feet on the earth or the floor or the carpet, and to know that the earth and her wisdom is supporting us every moment of our lives. Take a moment to deepen your breath and breathe in gratitude for whatever you can be grateful for, and breathe out praise. With that, we pray, praise be to you, our loving Creator. We praise and thank you for the many blessings of our lives, especially the magnificent gift of creation. We ask you to help us slow down, to resist the frenetic pull toward materialism and consumerism, the temptation to ever increasing productivity and efficiency, so that we might instead see with new eyes and appreciate with greater depth the immense beauty by which we are surrounded. And in so doing, that we might recognize our inherent connection to every creature with whom we share this precious planet Earth. Praise be to you, our loving Creator. We praise and thank you for the example of Saint Francis. We ask for the insight and imagination he had, for the awe and wonder he experienced, for his movement toward the excluded and suffering, for his willingness to reorient his life in pursuit of what it means to be truly human. Praise be to you, our loving Creator. We praise and thank you for the prudence of elected officials, civil servants, and activists, the brilliance of scientists, researchers, educators, the wisdom of spiritual and religious leaders, the vision of business women and men striving to make their companies sustainable, the necessary contributions of all those who are helping us understand what is happening to our common home, and what each one of us can do to care for our earth. Praise be to you, our loving Creator. We praise and thank you for the enthusiasm of young people, for their passion, for their insistence that we address pollution, climate change, water scarcity, the loss of biodiversity, the decrease in quality of life, and global inequity. Help us inspire one another to let our energy push us to overcome obstacles, resistance, denial, to find creative ways to elude the defenders of the status quo, to overturn the globalization of indifference, to settle for nothing less than the future we all deserve. Praise be to you, our loving Creator. During this final week of Lent, help us examine our lives to identify the places in which we are unfree, unloving, ungenerous. Open our ears so that we may hear clearly the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. And open our hearts so that we may truly care more profoundly for the earth and all those who share it, especially the poor. Praise be to you, our loving Creator. Amen.
Thank you, Terry. And now I invite Michelle to offer the introduction for our speaker tonight.
Good evening, everyone, or morning, wherever you might be joining us from. As we enter this Holy Week, we are called to ask who is being crucified on the crosses of militarism, poverty, racism, capitalism, and environmental destruction, and to question and dismantle the systems of violence that are holding them there. Years ago, I read The Principle of Mercy, Taking the Crucified People from the Cross by Jesuit John Sobrino, a book which still inspires and challenges me to live the gospel of peace, nonviolence, and justice. Steeped in liberation theology and experience in El Salvador, Sobrino writes that Christians must refuse to be silent in the face of injustice, noting that if unjust structures allow the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth, then an authentic Christian witness today must reveal the death-dealing structures of social sin, act in solidarity, and work to upend such structures and build a new reality of just peace. Our speaker this evening puts her faith into action in this very way, saying, "I'm ready to fight any industry that's trying to come in here to take over our lives, because it's a death sentence for us if we don't. We are fighting to live." We're honored to have with us Sharon Lavigne, who is acting for peace through justice in St. James Parish, Louisiana, and a parishioner at St. James Catholic Church. She is the founder of Rise St. James, a faith-based grassroots organization that is fighting for environmental justice as it works to defeat the proliferation of petrochemical industries in St. James Parish, Louisiana. A retired special education teacher, her father was a sugarcane farmer and her mother a homemaker. Her family participated in civil rights actions during the civil rights movement. In the late 60s, industrial plants came and have been polluting the area of St. James ever since. Nicknamed Cancer Alley for the above average rates of cancer there, the area is home to a high concentration of polluting industries. Despite this, the state has plans to expand this chemical corridor with dozens more factories. In 2016, Sharon was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis from industrial pollutants. And since 2018, she has been taking on the corporations seeking to build new facilities in this area, a predominantly Black, lower income community where toxic emissions are already among the highest in the United States. She was a plaintiff in White Hat versus Landry, an environmental justice case focused on changes in Louisiana oil and gas law. Led by Sharon Lavigne, Rise St. James galvanized community opposition and successfully defeated the construction of a 1.25 billion plastics manufacturing plant in 2019. And in 2021, Sharon received the Goldman Environmental Prize, a world-renowned green activism award, also called the Green Nobel. Sharon Lavigne's fight against Formosa plastics reveals how interconnected issues of racism and environmental destruction are. The land that was purchased by Formosa Plastics for a proposed petrochemical complex is on the gravesite of enslaved ancestors at the Buena Vista Cemetery. Her commitment to stability, to stay on one's land and act in solidarity with the environment and all who call it home, came in prayer after asking God if she should sell her family's land and leave. During her prayer, God said no. And as she has said, it wouldn't be right just to leave people here to die. We want our young people to live here. We want to build more homes here. We want to get to the point where we can have clean air, clean water. We want to vote out the public officials that aren't helping us. We're here to move forward, not backwards. Next month, she will receive the 2022 Latari Medal from the University of Notre Dame, an honor bestowed on a Catholic, quote, whose genius has ennobled the arts and sciences, illustrated the ideals of the church, and enriched the heritage of humanity. Thank you, Sharon, for your witness of your Catholic faith in action in addressing the social sin of environmental racism and being with us this evening. Please join me in welcoming our third and final speaker in this series, Sharon Lavigne.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks to everyone. Can you all hear me? Okay. Oh, this is such wonderful introduction. She just about said almost everything that I'm involved with. You know, it makes me think back to the first time I spoke to God. That was so touching. I spoke to God before on another issue when I was teaching school, because I wasn't treated right by this principal. And I went to God about what she was doing to me. And God spoke to me then. And I prayed. I started in June of that year. The principal was doing things that I didn't like, and I don't know what somebody told her, because sometimes you might tell someone something and they would believe it. They don't find out for themselves. So I don't know what it was somebody told her about me, and she tried to make it hard for me. And I went into prayer in June of that year, and I asked God to move her from St. James High School, but not for something better, or better pay, and to let her be happy wherever you would send her. And God did that. In October of that same year, she wrote a letter to the faculty saying that this was her last year at St. James High School. So I know what God can do. And when I see her now, I give her a hug, because God did me a favor so my teaching career could be much smoother. And I never ever pray for God to do anything bad to a person, because that's not right. But I asked him to fix the situation, and he knew how to fix it better than I would fix it. So that was one time he did me a favor. And then when I when I heard Formosa Plastics was coming into St. James, I was in my classroom in our new school that they built because they sold our other school that I was teaching in. So I was in my room that day, and my daughter called and said that the governor just approved Formosa Plastics would be coming to St. James. I said, to St. James? I said, how could he do that to us? So, when I got home that evening, I put on the TV and I wouldn't move because I wanted to see for myself. And when I saw him and the people from Formosa Plastics celebrating, just celebrating the approval of this plant, and it just hurted me to see that we already have 12, and these people, DEQ, LDEQ, nobody checked to see how many we have. Nobody checked on the emissions that we already breathing. So I just, it was heartbreaking for me to see that on TV. And then I went to work the next day. All I could think about is what the governor said, how he approved this. And then months went by. And in September the 8th, 2018, we had a march down the worstest area in St. James Parish. It's called Birdland. These people are bombarded with two industries. They are like a sandwich, one on the right side, one on the left side. So we had a march down there, and we had our banners, and people started taking pictures. I didn't know what all that was about. So, and I had my mask on because I was trying to disguise myself because I was teaching school then. So I prayed. I don't know if it was the end of September or the beginning of October. I asked people if they wanted to join another organization because the organization that we were in, they didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to fight industry. They said it couldn't be done because the governor approved it. And they said our planning commissioners will approve it also. They're going to send it to our board members, our parish council members, and the parish council members will approve it also. They were right. I didn't know how this stuff worked. So in 2019, that's when they approved it. But before they approved it, I went into prayer because I was tired of crying because I had to move. Me and my brother said, we have to figure out where we're going to move to. And he said he would move across the river in the 4th district because we have land over there. He's going to get a trail and park over there. And I told him, I said, that is not far enough to avoid the pollution. And he said, well, sis, you know, that's true. I'm going to have to move further away. And I said, me too. And we sat down, we trying to brainstorm to see where we were going to move. Because at that meeting, the Help Association meeting, that's called Humanitarian Enterprise of Loving People. They said that we would have to move because Formosa was coming in. And the toxic chemicals in the air is so bad that we're not going to be able to live here. So we have to move. So in my mind, in our minds, we knew we had to move. And so I didn't feel right. Why should I move? And so that's when I sat on my porch and I watched the cardinals, the little red birds, go from tree to tree. And I was told when you see the red birds, that means change. And I thought the change was that I had to move. That's what I thought our change was. And then that particular day, I sat on the porch. I never forget that day as long as I live. I asked God, I said, do you want me to sell the land that you gave me? And he said, no. In this ear, I could hear this ear, but this ear was loud and clear, like he was sitting right beside me. And he said, no. And it startled me. And I asked him if he wanted me to sell the home that he gave me. And he told me no again. So I just didn't know what to do. I asked him what he wanted me to do. And I listened. And he said, fight. I was puzzled because I didn't know what he meant, fight. Because I have never done anything before like this. So I didn't know what to do or what to say. And I cried. I sat on that porch and cried. That's the porch where I sit with my Bible and I would read my Bible because I knew we had to move. So when he said to fight, he put a fight in me. Lord have mercy, if y'all only knew what he did to me. He changed me. And then from that moment on, we started doing things, and we were going fast, like in a fast lane. We have done so many things in 3.5 years. Other people have been in organization for 20 years, and I haven't even heard about them. But it's just like a moving, like a train or something, just going fast, fast, fast. And then I would get up to do things. I didn't know what in the world I was doing. God in heaven knows I didn't know. I really didn't know. I'd go to parish council meetings, and I say, I'm not a public speaker, so I'd bring my notes and I'd read. If I had a letter, I'd read my letter. Or whatever I had to do, I read it. I would write it out, write out my speech, and I would read it. And he just made me do these things. He just led me like I was just moving. And then in October, we had our meeting in the den, and then we didn't know what to do. So I went to a conference in Baton Rouge, and we met with some people up there, and they gave me the cards, the ministers, attorneys, law professors. If you need help, just call them. I didn't know what kind of help I needed because I didn't know what I was doing. So we had our second meeting in my garage, and we had about 20 people. Some people from New Orleans came to help us. The NAACP came to help us to organize because we didn't know anything about organizing an organization. We didn't know. So from there, we decided to do a march, and we decided to name the organization. So that's when we named it Rise St. James. And then we had our first march on November 3rd, 2018. It was so wonderful. We were out there on the street marching, and we just was chanting. And if you look at the picture, you could see, looked like I was different in that picture. And I was holding up a sign of Keith Hunter because he died for the fight. And he died from respiratory problems right there in Birdland, where he was bombarded with 2 industries. And he died before we started Rise. But he was a great speaker. He knew what to say. He knew everything. I didn't know anything, but he knew everything. And so I would carry his picture when I would march. And one lady walked up to me after we spoke. We had the bull's horn. We just was talking, saying we didn't want Formosa here. And my daughter said, it's enough. Enough is enough. We have enough over here, and we don't want you to come here. Cameras was all in the front of us taking our pictures, and I didn't know they were recording it. I didn't care. So after we finished marching, we walked to my cousin's house for jambalaya and food and stuff. One man walked up to my right side. He said, Sharon, I see God all over you. I said, you do? He said, yes. He said, you're doing a wonderful thing. Thank you. Then Sheila came to my left side, and she said, girl, the Spirit is all over you. You don't do things like this. I said, I know I don't. And I said, well, thank you. Then we went to go and eat, and it was just a wonderful day. And I think that's when we really started to move. Then we met with other organizations. Then we had another march in 2019. And we had another march in October. We had one in May, then one in October of 2019. And it's been going. And we get so many calls. Right now, we only have 4 members that's getting paid, and that's it. We have to find new people to put on board. We need staff. We need funding to hire staff. And we're trying to get a grant writer. We're trying to get an accountant, bookkeeper. And we're going. But I gave up my life to do this. I don't even spend much time with my family. I don't have time. I'm on Zoom calls every day. I'm meeting with people. I'm telling my story. I'm praying. And I used to go to the chapel every Sunday at noon just to pray, just to tell God hello, and just to spend that hour with him. Because I go to church on Sundays. I'm in the choir, and I look forward to that. But it's not enough. So on Sundays, I'll go at noon, sometime 1, sometime 11:30, and sit in the chapel for 1 hour where it's quiet and just me and him talking. And I tell him what I have to tell him. But prior to me doing this work, I used to go to the chapel every Sunday like clockwork at noon. And I didn't have anything extra to pray for. So I'll call my children and ask them if they needed some prayers. And they would, oh yes, mom, I need this and that. Mom, I need to get this promotion on my job. Go in the chat, pray, call back a few weeks later, mom, I got it. And I would do things like that because I didn't have any big issues in my life that I was concerned with. And it just a change. When God touch you, baby, it's a change. And no man could take it from you. And I pray and I ask God to continue to lead me. And I ask him to just show me the way, tell me what he want me to say, tell me what he want me to do. I would go to my meetings, and sometimes the people in there wasn't too nice, and they were bickering and complaining and fussing, shut down things that I've come up with. And I would have to take my Bible and pray. Before I go to the meetings, I would pray. I'd pray on them so they wouldn't have all that commotion going on. And it works. Trust me, it works. And then I got to the point where we had 3 members on the East Bank that joined with us. They looked like they was envious of what we were doing. So they would come into the meetings and find all kind of fault and complain and all kind of stuff. So I prayed and asked God to fix that situation. I was tired of people being unhappy and coming in there complaining. So God fixed it so well. They wrote a letter and said they quit. So God fixed that. I didn't ask God to take I thought God was going to make them shut up and be more calm and much nicer. But God did a big favor. They wrote a letter and said they're going to start their own organization. I was happy. We don't have people in our organizations anymore that's bickering or fussing. And I always tell them, Rise St. James is a faith-based organization because it came from God. And I said, we don't have all this foolishness. If you can't abide by the rules, don't even look to join with Rise. We don't want anyone that's going to hinder us or go out in the community and talk about us in a negative light. And I said, right now, as I speak, we have all good members. So far, we have all good members. We have about 10 active members, but we have close to 100 members, but we have at least 10 active. And we have a media person that's bringing out the media because I'm not good with that. And we have one with a communications. And my daughter is my assistant. If you can't get me, you have to get her because she takes my calls most of the time because we have 3 different emails and she's on all of my emails because if I'm out of town, she'll take the message. And I thank God for her. Then my oldest daughter, she was one of the founders also, but we didn't have any money to pay her. So she's still working, but she's going to come on in July. So she was one of the fighters in the beginning. And so we need the help, and that's what we're getting. But God is sending us help. God is sending us the right people. It takes us a while because we screen the people that we want to work with us. We want someone that's really know what it's about, and we want someone that's into it with us and not in it for the money, but in it to do the works. And God been sending that to us. And if I feel someone is not right, I get that little inkling, and I know it's coming from God because I see it after that. So they can't get over because God is with me. He's walking with me. He's doing everything with me. And I'm so grateful that he's in my life. He was always in my life, but he's even in my life even more. So I am so grateful to him for getting me to do the works that he wants done, because he know in St. James, we are bombarded with 12 industries in a 10-mile radius. We have an industry called American Styrenics, and the people that work there told me that's a killer. They said, you are fighting Formosa, but you need to fight this one too. The problem with this one, it's been there for years. It's hard to stop them, to move them out because they've been there so long. But we're talking to the EPA to try to get them to regulate their emissions. And we have purple monitors that's monitoring all of these industries. One of the monitors was put in the 6th district. We have 7 districts. I live in the 5th district where the 12 industries is. The 4th district have about 7 industries left. And so we put a monitor in the 6th district where there's no industry. and we get spikes. The industries are polluting. So in the 6th district, you know, if it's spiking so high, what it's going to do when they put it in the 5th district where I live? I guess it's going to jump off the map, huh? Because that's how much the emissions are 3 miles from my home. And then Formosa would have been 2 miles from my home. And Formosa, when they bought this property, it was a sugarcane farm, and they had grave sites on that property. Formosa knew that. They would not bring that information to the parish council. Even the parish council approved their permits. They would not bring it to the parish council. When we found out about it, I never forget that day. It was in December 20, I think it was 2019, the 23rd of December, because we asked them would they back it up until after New Year's. They told us no. So we had to do it the day before, 2 days before Christmas. So I went to the meeting and I read my little letter and told them that about the grave sites. They just look at me. They had no idea that there were grave sites on that property. We thought that when we bring the grave sites to them, they would revoke the permit. They would not do it. Sometimes I think that they don't know what they are doing. And sometimes I think they felt like since they gave them that permit, they would sue them if they would take it back. So our parish officials, they need to be educated before they get up there and swear, you know, to protect the parish and work in our favor. They just say yes to every industry that comes in. So they didn't take it back. So we're fighting that also. Then we wanted to have a Juneteenth event. We had to go to court to go on the site to do a Juneteenth event. We went to court that Thursday. The judge said we can go on the site and have our Juneteenth event. Formosa was angry, so they brought it to a higher court that same day. The higher court ruled in our favor, and our Juneteenth was that next day. Every time we want to go on the site, we have to ask them, can we go on the site just to do our little performance or our little Black History program? But I never forget the first time we went on that site to do our Juneteenth event, I could feel the spirit of the ancestors. Oh, it was so wonderful. It was like they were talking to us. And it looked like I could just see the spirit in the air. It looked like they were so glad that we thought about them, that we did not forget them, because Formosa was planning to desecrate the graves. Even after they said they found human skull and human, I think, bones or something they found, they admit to that, but they still was going to, I think, put them in a broad pit, dig them all up and throw them somewhere. And our ancestors were so happy that we did that. I was happy too. And then, I don't know, just that Formosa, the Army Corps of Engineers came to St. James and spoke to the citizens, not the politicians. And we told them all what was going on in St. James. And then Michael Regan came from the EPA, and he met with the citizens, and he listened to us, and he walked on some of the streets where I told him to come to see how close the tank is to the people's homes. You can walk over a good little distance and touch the tank. That's how close it is to people's homes. When I brought him down this street in St. James in the 5th district, we went out there and I pointed and I showed him. And one of the young men that live on that street, we found out after that he has stomach cancer. How many more have to have cancer and die? How many more? We are being a sacrifice zone for industry. Then we went to Birdland. He saw for himself the 2 industries that's on each side of Birdland. People live there. People are dying. One lady, she lost her husband a few months ago. She moved out. She had cancer. But when her husband was living, he didn't want her to speak out. So now she moved away. She had cancer. We have a lady that lived next to Welcome Park. She had cancer, breast cancer, and her daughter had breast cancer. This other man that lived right next to Formosa site, he had cancer. He had to stop farming. He was a sugarcane farmer. My 2 brothers have cancer. My sister-in-law died with cancer. I can go on and on and on and on. It's a whole list of people that's dying. When the pandemic came, we had more people dying. So All we do is asking God to help us. And God has been helping us. Oh, he helped us a lot because in 3.5 years, Formosa haven't been built. So that's God is doing that. People still tell me, you can't fight that plant. And I tell them, I know I can't fight the plant. Trust me, dear, I know I can't fight the plant, but I know someone who can. And they shut up after that. Even a preacher told me that one time. But we're not going to stop because God put this organization here for us to go forward and to save St. James Parish, especially our community, our family, our neighbors, our friends. I have so many positive thinking people in St. James that tell me that they are glad that there is a Rise St. James. People had issue across the river in Gonzales. This lady and her neighbors saw red dust on their homes. I got a phone call from a friend. She said, you need to bring Rise St. James over there. I said, I can't unless they ask. And I said, they need a leader or someone to talk with. But I said, it could be done. If you go to God, bring God first. Don't just go with yourself. You bring God with you. And you go and you speak up and you fight. Because if I hadn't spoke up and talked to God first, I wouldn't be sitting here today telling you what happened to me. It was a life change. It really was. And I miss seeing the family because I see them sometimes on holidays now, but it's not the same because my mind is on what I'm doing and my children know that. And I think they talk about it behind my back. Oh, that she just loves to talk about Rise. But now they're joining with me. They were with me in the beginning, but now they're getting more because they all work. Everybody work. So my grandchildren that lives in Boutique, that's almost to New Orleans, because my son is a state trooper. He said his daughter wants me to come to the school to speak to her class. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And now I can speak to anywhere or anyone now. At first, I couldn't do that. That's because God changed me. He made me to change. Because without him, I wouldn't be speaking to you either. I'd be sitting in my little corner, But God is the answer, and he's so powerful. And sometimes when I'm in church, I'm in the choir, and I'm singing, and the song just get to me, and the tears come to my eyes, and I have to catch myself. I don't want people to see me crying. It'd be so powerful. And sometimes the songs are about me, about what I'm doing. Oh, way make a miracle worker. Oh Lord, God is so good. And God, I don't know, I love going to church. I love singing in the choir. And one time when I was working, when I was teaching school, I was so tired. I wouldn't go to church on a Sunday morning because I was too tired to get up and go. Baby, when I started singing in that choir, I don't go to church on Saturdays anymore. I go to church on Sundays so I can sing in the choir, and I just feel his spirit in me. And sometimes I'm sitting down in here and I feel it, and I talk to him. I might tell him good morning in the morning. I might tell him, I ask God how he's feeling. He's my friend. He's my everything. He's my rock. I lean on him. And like nothing else matters, just me and him. And I tell him I love him. So you all tell God you love him because he's your everything, just like he's my everything. So I thank you all for having me. I enjoy being with you all.
Thank you so much for giving us your time to speak to us about all these things you've done for the love of God and the people of St. James Parish.
Thank you.
I guess one of the questions that I had was, what was it like working with all the different generations, both the young people and also the people that remember what it was like before the plants?
Before the plants, the people can tell you their story, and they can tell you how it was before the plants. We had everything over here in St. James. We had clean air, clean water, and we could plant gardens. The water was not polluted with benzene and other chemicals. We could drink the water from the hydrant. We can't do that anymore. You drink the water from the hydrant. So we had our own food. My daddy had cattle. We had gardens. We had everything. Our grass was green. The air was fresh. You could get up in the morning and breathe, take a deep breath and breathe in that clean air. You can't do that now. You're gonna breathe in a bunch of chemicals. And a lot of people could tell you, even my brother, he's a year older than I am. He could tell you because he worked in industry, and he said it was a good living, but he said you paid a price for it after that. And some people, older people that work in industries with asbestos. One of the men that I worked at the school, after he retired from working in that industry, he came work as a janitor, and he had to retire from being a janitor because he became sick after years of working in that other area with asbestos, not knowing asbestos was bad for you. And he told me one day, he said, I don't feel good. I said, you don't feel good? He said, no, I don't feel good. I guess he couldn't explain how he felt, but he told me he just didn't feel good. And he looked like he was tired, and he looked like he was weak. Then he passed away. And I have another friend down the street. He passed away too, working in the factory where there was asbestos. And it takes years off your life, and you might wind up sick too. But the people in the area breathe that air, they wind up sick too. They have a friend down here with brain cancer. Janice have 17 members of her family came down with cancer in 1 month. It's sad. If we do a survey, we'd have to get a long list of papers to give all the people's names who have cancer. We have so many.
Sharon, thank you again for giving of your time to be here this evening. We heard that you were a busy woman, and here you are. You hardly have time for your family. So I guess you've made a lot of us family, and we're grateful for that. So for questions and answers, if anyone has something they'd like to ask, feel free to type it in the chat, and then we'll watch for that. And in the meantime, I would just like to get us started with, because I'm like, I want to move there so that I can go and be in Rise St. James and do things with the organization. But so how can we be involved? How would you say as Catholics we can support you? Do you have an ask of us?
Oh, first of all, prayers. That's the number one thing. And to get the word out, to put our story out there so people can read about us and see what's going on. And if you have a friend or a relative that can get close to President Biden, put the word in his ear that we want him to come to St. James and visit and see what we are breathing, and see where our community has become a skeleton town and industry have taken over our lives. And let him see how the parish council members is not fighting for us. We vote them in office and they let us down. And maybe he could talk some sense into them, but maybe it's too far gone because we don't know what the industry gave them for them to be in favor of industry. So just by him coming here, that would be the biggest thing in the world, for him to ride in my car or his car and let me show him all the industry in St. James. And I think he would, by a stroke of a pen, he could stop this. He could stop. We don't want any more in here. And the ones that's in here, we want the EPA to regulate them. And if the emissions are not being regulated, to shut them down. If they are poisoning us, shut them down. And it's like our governor said, he would do a health study. He haven't done one. And we don't have the funds to do one. So whenever we get together and raise money, we want to do a health study to prove to them, to the governor, to the president, everybody, that these industries are poisoning us, they are killing us. Maybe they might shut them down. Why should St. James have to be the sacrifice zone for the industries to make money? You don't sacrifice people's lives just to make money. We want industries or factories that can bring jobs, but clean jobs that don't poison us, so we can live and breathe clean air, drink clean water, go back to making a garden again, and stop using all this plastics. We need to back off from all the plastics. A lot of the chemicals to make the plastics are cancer-causing chemicals. We want to do more research on the chemicals that's being emitted in the air from all of these industries. We're trying to get some of the students over the summer to do that research for us. And we want to announce it in our local newspaper, announce it on social media, letting the world know what this chemical is and what it's used for and what's the dangers, the effects of it. That's what we want. We want RISE to get people to help us like that in those aspects where we have the proof and not people think we're just guessing. We want the proof on paper so we could share it with everyone. And also Michael Regan, when he came down here, he wanted me and Robert Taylor to meet with him in DC. And he's supposed to set it up for us to go out there so we can further discuss what's going on in St. James and St. John the Baptist parishes. But we haven't gotten that yet. We're still waiting on that. And I also plan to go to DC on June 18th for an action to target President Biden. So we have a lot of plans that we want to do. And we don't target him in a way where we are jabbing at him or anything. We're asking him to come and see us and to help save our lives. Because we asked our governor, he's just ignoring us. We have a billboard with his picture on it, asking him to save us. We have a billboard with our grandma and the baby. We're asking the parish council members to stop Formosa. And it's in their hands. All they have to do is rescind their decision. They could stop it right now, but they won't do it.
Thank you for that response. I love that you started out with prayer. I love that, that's part of how we advertise this evening, was that you're sharing how faith is a part of this and not just a part of it, but how it sustains you, and that you would ask our faith to be a part of this work too. I love that. So thank you. And I see somebody shared a link for a petition to President Biden. So
yes,
that's thank you for sharing, Fran. And Meg asked a question. So what do you see as the role of scientists in promoting the health and safety of communities like St. James?
But just like I said, they can bring out the information, the facts about the chemicals that's being used in the air, and the chemicals that's being dumped in our drinking water. And we can let the community know what's being done to us, especially if we get it from the scientists, that they would read it quicker before it comes from us. And like professionals that would give us the information, we would put their names on it to let them see that it didn't come from us. But RISE St. James is bringing the message to the community. So the scientists can help like that. Help us with the logistics, with the industries, with the chemicals. Help us get it out to the public.
Thank you. For me, I came up with one while I was listening to you share earlier, and I used to do some outreach, and I also just felt like I'm not capable of going to groups and talking to people, it's interesting to hear you say, God changed me, and so what do you say are some things that you're like, this, kind of like you're saying, I would have never done this. I would have never gone to these meetings. I would have never, well, I'll just read my letter.
That's right. That's what I did. I read my letter. And when I spoke to the union, to the UK, I read my letter. And when I finished reading it, I got messages, text messages asking me, can you have a copy of it? And I said, a copy of it? I said, it's written in my handwriting. I wrote it myself the night before. And it was my handwriting. And I couldn't get no one to type it for me, so I could send it to the ladies so they can have it. But it's in my office. So maybe one day when I type, when I have a break, maybe I could type it and send it to her. But I didn't know it was that good. But you know what happened that night? I kept saying, I need to write this. I got to give it tomorrow. I don't know what to say, dear Lord. Dear Lord, help me write this. At midnight, it came to me and I started writing. And boy, everybody say it was good. But my thoughts that he put in my mind, I had to write it down. So, because I didn't want to leave out anything. So I write it down. Then someone else said, I know she hadn't been writing no speeches, somebody been writing it for her. I said, Lord, if they only knew that's my writing. One lady wrote my speech when I first got started, and because I didn't know what to do. I was going to the parish council meeting. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know what to say. And she's an instructor at a university. And I said, I need something to say. What you think I should say? And she said, don't fence me in. Like when you come from this area, it's like a box. You go that area and that area, and it's like a circle where they're fencing us in this 5th district. And I said, okay. And that was the only one that wrote that for me. All the rest of them, I wrote them. I'll be writing my own little speeches. And people say it's good. When I went to Washington, D.C. to the environmental committee meeting that they had 5 of us sitting on the panel. And they were up there talking like nothing. The lady was telling all her story. I wanted to cry. That lady's story was so sad. And I got to me, I did like this here, and I read mine. They told me it was too long, so I had to take out some of the lines. And I did that morning when I was there, and I crossed out the lines so I can only have 5 minutes, because I didn't want them to say, I'm reading 6 minutes. So I said, let me cross out. And the man told me, that's enough, cross out enough. So I said, oh, then I read mine. And then the next lady, she talked hers. The next person, they talk. I'm the only one with a paper reading, but I don't care. Shoot, I got my point across. So I don't have to read too much anymore. It come. I guess God said this girl need to stop reading. but it's good. And sometimes I go to the chapel when I don't know what to say or do. I go ask him, and I sit down there quiet and I talk to him and tell him, and I say, dear Lord, I know you're gonna put the thoughts in my mind. I know you're gonna put the words on my lips. And I be in that chapel and I just get into it with him. And boy, he just give it to me after that. And now I'm worried about the commencement address on the 15th of May. Somebody said, I don't know why you worried they're gonna come to you. I said, that's true. But I want to write it so I can have it, so I don't have to try to skip all over in my mind. I want to write it on paper. So I have to work on that.
Yeah, but it sounds like God's got you, so I'm not.
That's right, he got me. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And we got another question for you.
Okay.
What age group seems to be mostly involved?
What age group? From a little on up. One of our members had a little baby. She already in the organization. Whatever age from on up, from little on up to whatever 100, wherever they want to go, as old as they want to be and as young as they want to be. My grandson is 10, and he's concerned. He wrote, he did a poster about me, and he was kind of disappointed because he didn't place first, second, or third. They gave him an honorable mention, and he was disappointed. I said, "Don't worry about it, baby." I said, "You got more projects to do." I said, "They don't want to admit that these plants are killing us, and that you are my grandson, and you brought your project and you made it about me. So they don't like that." So I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "It's gonna be all right." So he was all right after that.
Well, thank you. I am glad that I'm in the young adult age so that I will get to sit in our meeting next month to talk with you more. But yeah, thank you again for your time. We don't want to keep you too long. And Anna, I think if you have any announcements.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you everyone for your questions. And I hope that everyone is just feeling God moving and at work in you now. I for myself believe that God is always moving and at work in us. And there are moments where we make ourselves open to that. And I just think that tonight has been one of those moments for me and hopefully for so many others. So just moving forward with hope, with prayer, with drive to action. Really grateful for this time that we've shared. I really briefly want to just talk about a few calls to action. We've got some slides that we can pull up, and I'll drop some links in the chat too. So the first is an advocacy campaign ongoing currently at the Covenant called Encounter for Our Common Home. So you can sign up for this campaign at godsplanet.us/advocacy, and the link's there in the chat. This is an opportunity for the US Catholic community to come together across the country to urge our US senators to enact authentic solutions to the climate crisis with an eye toward those who are most impacted and most vulnerable on the front lines of environmental degradation and the climate crisis. And that's going to culminate with a week of action with legislative visits the week of May 2nd. So would love to see those of you who are here tonight on that list and joining our campaign. And we'll also have some special opportunities for youth and young adults. So if you liked the tone of this, if you're a young person on this call tonight, we'd love to just have you be a part of our community. You already are by virtue of being here. Second, I've just shared the website for Rise St. James there in the chat, where you can learn more about Sharon's work in her community and the work of those that she walks alongside of. There's a link there where you can sign up for the newsletter to receive quarterly updates on their work. And that's a great place to start to follow with what's going on. And the last thing I'll say is that for those of you on the call who are young adults, this is part of Ecospirituality series, Ecospirituality Nights, which is a virtual series by our young adult community here at Catholic Climate Covenant. So get excited, young adults. We've got a follow-up conversation with Sharon on May 9th at the same time. So Sharon, you can practice your commencement speech on us if you want. We promise we won't share it. This will just be a chance for us in a much smaller, more intimate setting to just have a deeper conversation with Sharon. So register for that at catholiclimateccovenant.org/ecospirituality-nights. And that is our evening. So thanks again for joining. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you to all of our young adults who served in different roles this evening, helping to make this just a meaningful gathering. Thank you so much.